Hello, everyone. So for the second half of this module, you'll be talking about a chapter where the authors of your careers book kind of glom together three fairly distinct fields of psychology, although they are interrelated. So I can see why they did it. But in my honest opinion, it's sort of a weird grouping. The three are industrial organizational psychology, cognitive psychology, and human factors psychology. So industrial organizational psychology is a field where psychologists typically either do research or work in applied ways in industry, in business settings. So they might be hired by a company to try to improve productivity, perhaps as a consultant or perhaps full-time. They might try to figure out, like how to keep people happier on the job, which we know can increase things. What sort of benefits should they be giving people? How are you best able to help people work to the best of their ability without burning them out, things along these lines. Cognitive psychology is really, I think of this as a pure science part of psychology. So cognitive psychology looks at thinking and all of the permeations thereof. So things like memory, learning, attention, all of these fall into cognitive psychology. So when you're doing cognitive psychology, you're engaging what's called metacognition. You're thinking about thinking, right? You're remembering about remembering as you memorize things about this. So cognitive psychologists can do research that's very applied. So for example, they might want to do research about what's the best way to help students learn and retain information. Or they might do research about what's the best way to help an older adult try to stave off some of the possible memory loss that comes with aging or development of dementia. Human factors psychology is the intersection really of engineering and psychology. I remember the one time I've seen a human factors job advertised in particular. When I was on the job market, it was at Michigan Technological University, which is sort of Michigan's answer to MIT, not as prestigious, but pretty well known as an engineering, math, that type of school. So certainly these things work together. So in human factor psychology, you're thinking about how do people interface, and now in particular with technology, right? Because it's such a big part of our lives. I mean, I'm gesturing at a computer screen instead of at you right now, right? I'm sitting in an office chair. I'm thinking about things like that, right? Human factors engineers and human factors psychologists might work together. I have a friend who's a human factors engineer who works for Fitbit. Okay, so that's a great application of this. And you can imagine how some of the information about health psychology we've already talked about, right, might come into play here as well. So human factors, you might be doing pure research, or again, you might be like consulting with a company. I'm sure people like Apple or Microsoft have human factors psychologists to help them improve usability of products, but also to make it more appealing. So you get some of that like marketing element in there too. So there's some really fun stuff related to ethics here as well. So one of your ethics articles on Blackboard is actually about robot love. So I hope that you'll have fun thinking about and pondering sort of where the limits of what we should do with technology and what we, how we can apply this to the brain. Last little side note that I didn't say that I probably should, I typically tell my classes is if you want to make a lot of money in psychology, industrial organizational psych is the way to go. And I'm guessing probably some human factors jobs as well, because industry is where they have the money, right? Businesses are where CEOs are paid a lot. They have the money, you're probably going to get really good benefits. So if you're thinking, I'd like to work in an applied setting and make a lot of money, unless you have a really successful private practice as a clinician or you work for, say, the Army, you're typically not going to make a ton of money, but in IO, you might be able to do that. The story I always tell is when I took the equivalent of this class as a grad student, our professor put up a list of like salaries And when we all saw the IO salary versus what clinicians would make, we were like, that's it. We're going to go enroll in the IO program. None of us actually did, because that's not why we're doing what we're doing. But, you know, just a sort of funny anecdote all the same. So again, I hope you enjoyed learning about these three sort of distinct but kind of interrelated areas of psychology.